Invoked, dude. How? Come on, get a job. You can't respond because of meltdown. Wait, true. Wait, what the fuck? Are we cracking this board? Pan pop, totem. I take it back. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't mean it. I just have some PTSD from Invoked in 2019. Your deck is insane. Your deck is unbelievably. You cracked an entire board with one Invoked. Okay. Okay. You're better. You're the GOAT. You're the GOAT.
Truth Nuke. What can I say but Truth Nuke? Thanks, Nadir, for the wonderful intro, and thanks to you all for watching. It means a lot, and I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. And without further ado, let's jump right into this one. Alright, so Sunday was Farfa Genesys Tournament 2.0, and I got first place with Dracotail. So the tournament was 167 people. It was 8 rounds of Swiss and cut to top 8. I finished first place after Swiss, 7-1, with my only loss being to the Mirror, and then I won all 3 games in top 8. So I went 10-1 on the day with 4-11 on my dice rolls, which is pretty below average. It's not horrible, but it's definitely not the greatest. I don't think there was probably any other deck that could have performed this well going second, 7 out of 11 games. And yeah, I mean, Dracotail was the deck that I needed to be able to perform this well. I think the deck is fantastic, honestly. I think it's pretty underplayed for just how good it is and just how versatile the cards all are. So first off, we play the 17 names you can play. You can only play 17 names because obviously Refinement is 20, Malulu's 5, Kitu's 10, and the Arthalion is 20. So if you play one Ketu, one Arthalion, 17 names is the most you can play. And I think this is the perfect ratio. I don't think you could really change this at all, unless if you're playing Dracotail Pure. If you're playing Branded or whatever, then maybe you can, or you have to. But if you're playing Dracotail Pure, this is the ratio you need. So all the Dracotail monsters have the effect to where they're used as fusion material. You can set a Dracotail spell trap from the deck. And then the Dragon Dracotail monsters all have an additional effect. Malulu negates a monster your opponent controls non-targeting. Urgula is a pop for a spell trap non-targeting. And Pawn is a pop for a monster. Right? And then they all have another effect as well. Lucius on summon is a search. Frixel is a reborn and a bounce. Phimena is a discarded to quick play fusion, lets you play turn 0. Malulu is a Blazing Cartesia type fusion, also quick play, but you have to summon it first. Pawn is a recycle it when a fusion monster, right, not necessarily Dracotail fusion, any fusion, is destroyed. And Urgula lets you put it back to add back a spellcaster Dracotail monster. So what you're going to be setting is Kitu. Kitu is a Rhoda that if your opponent controls a monster, lets you then poly. You don't have to use what you search as well. So often you'll say search Phimena and then use the other cards in your hand to fusion summon and then have the Phimena as protection. Rahu is the branded fusion type card, fuses from hand, deck, or field. You're only ever going to be able to use one from deck because they're all one Dracotail and then monsters in the hand, right? Gulamel is one monster in the hand, Arthalion is 1+, but it's only the one Dracotail you can use from deck for Rahu. Flame is going to be a target any spell on the field, negate it. Sting is a double DD Crow for a monster and or spell trap, doesn't have to be both, can be just one. And then Horn is a compulse for a monster in attack position. All of them also let you return any Dracotail card from graveyard or banishment to the deck or extra deck, and then draw a card. So the 2 fusions you can make are Arthalion, right? This card says when it's fusion summoned, you get to target monsters on the field and or graveyards up to the number of monsters used as material from the hand and return them to the hand. Remember, that's any field, any graveyard. So sometimes you might want to bounce your opponent's branded fusions back to their extra deck so they're not triggering the graveyard. You might want to bounce your own monsters back to hand. The really key thing is it bounces your opponent's guys back to their extra deck, and it returns your monsters from your graveyard to your hand. Gulamel is a quick effect pop in response to any Dracotail card, right? Could be your opponent's. This, is a quick effect, so say if your opponent activates a field spell or something, you can fire a Dracotail card and then chain Gulamel to pop it. So everything else in the deck is just in service of either making your fusion summons better or just giving you more fusion summons, or both, right? So first off, we have King of the Swamp and Poly. Again, King of the Swamp is just a monster you can use to make these guys, but can also be Poly. Beast is a draw when it's sent to graveyard. Capshell is a draw when it's used as fusion material, meaning it theoretically triggers under, macro, shifter, die-fi, etc. I don't think either is better or worse than the other one, but I think 1-1 is definitely the correct ratio. And then after that, we play the Invoked package. So Alistair is very interesting because Alistair on normal gets Invocation, right? Invocation is basically just Poly in this deck. You get to use it to fuse any number of monsters from hand to, make your Athalion and whatnot. But with Alistair, it's a bit different, right? Because you can normal summon Alistair, get Invocation, and then you can, say, fuse away any of these names to make, Makaba, Raijin, whatever. But then you get to go use the name set Rahu, and an Invocation can add back Alistair from Banishment back to hand as material for your Rahu, meaning, even if you draw Alistair plus one of these guys and just 3 back row, you're still able to full combo. Meltdown is fantastic in this deck. What it says is you search Alistair, right? Most people stop reading there, and if they do, you win the game. It says the activation of your cards and effects that include an effective fusion summon, right? So that means Rahu, even though it's Rhoda, it still includes an effective fusion summon, cannot be negated. And then also, your opponent can't activate any cards and effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. This means that on the resolution of the fusion summon, your opponent cannot respond to anything you do. Your Arthalion can bounce their whole field. You get to Orgula pop, you get to Malulu pop, Pond pop. They can't respond to anything. Doesn't matter if you use quick effects like Gulamel, they can't respond to it. Even if you have no triggers, you can, fusion summon and then on res say, I want to Horn on res. I want to Sting on res. I want to chain Gulamel to that. Can't respond to any of it. It's genuinely really, really, really powerful. If Meltdown resolves and you get to fusion summon, you probably will win that game. I think 2 Meltdown is still the correct ratio, though, even though it's a very fun card. There's decks like Radiant Typhoon that search MST. There's, Art Mage that ends on Graph Layer, which is not typically a great interaction, but just trade 1 for 1 with a Meltdown. Maybe you could side a third for going first, or for the decks that it just does wipe. I'd consider it. But for the most part, you just also want to keep the number of spells and traps you play in this deck down. So, 5 mana, turn 0 is able to work. And, that kind of stuff. You just need monsters to make Arthalion. And I think maybe the most interesting card in the whole deck is Crowley. So Crowley is similar to Alistair in that on summon, it can fuse away any of these guys, right? Because you have Ivice, which lets you use a spellcaster, Raijin, Purgatrio, Makaba. So it fulfills the part of being a starter card because it can perform a fusion summon. And its name is Alistair. But it also fulfills the effect of Beast and Capshell of being a really good fusion material, because when it's used for Arthalion, or if you summon Arthalion while it's in the graveyard, Arthalion can target it, add it to hand, and when it's added to hand, except by drawing it, you get to special summon it. When it's special summoned, you get to make a Magistus or Invoked fusion monster. You can use it and the Arthalion to make Zeroa, or it and a spellcaster to make Ivice, or it and the Light to make Makaba. Zeroa is the really, really important one, because Zeroa is fantastic. Zeroa is a target any effect monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard at ignition speed, equip it to it, so 1,000 dice restrict-esque effect. More importantly, it has this crazy effect that says when a monster effect is activated, you can send any face-up Magistus you control to the graveyard, including itself, negate that effect, and then destroy any card your opponent controls. Not targeting, not the card that they used. It can be, but it can be also any other card that they control. This is fantastic. And it's also not one effect per turn. You can use both. Again, genuinely very good. And the thing about Crowley is you're not just going to use Crowley once. You use Crowley on your turn when you Arthalion target it, but then you're also going to, on your opponent's turn, you're going to Malulu for another Arthalion, add it back, and then make Makaba or make Ivice. Like, it's very, very, very good. So, onto the extra deck, we have obviously Arthalion. Talked about it. Gulamel talked about it. Both of which, if two or more monsters are sent to the grave at the same time, i.e. a fusion summon, your opponent synchro summons, detach two for an Xyz, right, whatever, you get to revive them from graveyard. And that's pretty nice, right? Gulamel doesn't need to be fusion summoned to get the pop. So often you'll like use Gulamel to maybe make a Secretarion, keep it in graveyard as kind of like protected a little bit from some breakers, revive it. Secretarion is insane. This card is nuts. Like, genuinely, it's crazy. While this card's fusion summoned, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon dragon or spellcasters they control. Not the important effect, but still very good. Caesar Valius, stopped. Archmage Graflair, stopped. There's just a lot of like cards that are spellcasters or dragons in general. This card stops. Some decks, it will just completely shut them down, and you'll just basically always end on this regardless. So you would end on this even without that effect, but because it has that effect, it just shuts down decks. Importantly, you get to target a dragon and one spellcaster in graveyard, special summon one, and if you do, place the other on the bottom of the deck. You don't pick which one you're going to special summon or put to the bottom of the deck on activation, right? So first off, the normal case is going to be like, you put back Arthalion, summon like a Frixel. Frixel's going to summon another guy like Lucius or Malulu, bounce itself, maybe trigger the Lucius, whatever. But there's a lot of like hidden interactions with this card. First of all, this card says special summon one, and if you do, place the other on the bottom of the deck. If your opponent DD Crows one of the targets, you just get to summon the other card. Like, they can't do anything about it. Like, you don't tell them what you're going to summon. So if they DD Crow one, you're just going to summon the other. It's very, very powerful. It also gets back Zeroa, right? So if you make Zeroa on your opponent's turn or whatever, use the negate, you can just, like, get it back on your turn. Get a steal. Now you have another negate. Very, very good. This card is fantastic. You have two of it, so you basically have as many as you want. I would not play less than two of this card. It's very, very good. Regis is a banish for any card in their graveyard or on their field. If you banish from field, you have to bounce a dragon you control. Chaos lets you use a light or dark dragon and another dragon and pop cards up to the number of light and dark monsters. Use this card's material. Purgatrio, Makaba, Raijin. These are going to be your Invoked and Crowley fusions. Makaba's really good, obviously. Raijin is a Book of Moon, so not too bad. Purgatrio is by far the best. You might not think it, but this card is nuts. There's so many times where I would be dead if I didn't have Purgatrio, but I just win the game because my opponent has 5 Radiant Typhoon monsters or 5 Vanquish Soul monsters that I can't out, except I can normal Alistair, make Purgatrio, discard Alistair to make it like 4,700 and attack everything with piercing and you're dead. It's just that good. After that, we have Zeroa and Ivice. Ivice is a Magistus and Spellcaster. Lets you equip it to a card your opponent controls and snatch steal it. You're going to be making both of these, right? Eventually, because, again, you're going to summon Crowley on your turn, make Zeroa. On your opponent's turn, Arthalion again, get it back, make Ivice or make Makaba or whatever. That's why you play Ivice. Again, you're almost always going for Zeroa first, but you're going to use Crowley again. That's what this card's for. You have Argoides. Again, you can give it off Crowley. Crowley plus Arthalion makes Argoides, get a pop. It's when it's special summoned or when a monster is summoned to your opponent's field. And then Millenniumize. Millenniumize is solid. It lets you steal in response to an opponent's monster effect you get to take from their field or graveyard, and then it negates the effects of the monster that they activated, kind of like a called by-esque. Most likely it's going to come out for this card once it's released, as long as it's unpointed, because this card is nuts. It says King of the Swamp plus any spellcaster or dragon, again made for this deck, after it's summoned until the end of your next turn. right? So what does that mean? It's this turn, next turn, and then your next turn after that. It's unaffected by others' card effects. Just completely unaffected. When it battles, it gains 100 attack for each spell in both players' graveyards and both players' banishment. And then during your opponent's turn, you get to quick effect pop a spell trap. The gain is also permanent, right? So you're going to gain on your turn. They probably can't kill it on their turn. And on your turn, it's going to gain again if it lasts that long. This card is very, very, very good. There's a very good chance it's going to release unpointed because, let's face it, it's a Dark Magician card. I mean, yikes. But no, this card is very, very good in Dracotail. So look out for that in the future. So yeah, after that we had a side deck. Tournament was no side deck, so doesn't matter for this, but it's, the Crows. You play the 2 Shaddoll names to pair with Shaddoll Fusion, right, with Construct. Then Ultimate Slayer plus the targets, Skull Knight, Valon, and Malong. Overall, I don't think there's really anything I would take out in the deck. I think extra deck, main deck, basically perfect. I don't think there's really much you could play with around. Like, if anything is, like, maybe cuttable, like the third Alistair, maybe one of these guys, but I have no idea what you'd be playing in their stead. I think this 40 is, like, almost perfect, and the extra deck is about as good as it could be. Gulamel is going to probably cut for once the new Dracotail Fusion is released, as long as it's unpointed. If it is pointed, you're just going to forget about it because it's not that good, but it's probably better than the third Gulamel. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to Farfa, thanks to Arachel, all the mods, everyone who hosted the tournament. And stay tuned, because tomorrow I'm going to be going over some of my games in the tournament and, some of the more intricacies of the deck. And so thank you all. Have a good day and take care.